Every child in the village feared the three silent guardians. They stood at the river crossing for 100 years, never speaking, never eating, never moving. And when a boy finally saw what was hiding inside them, he realized the village had been protected by a secret no enemy could ever understand. In the old days, before roads cut through the forest and before strangers learned the paths between the hills, there was a village hidden behind mist and river reeds. People said the village survived because of the three silent guardians. They stood at the only crossing where enemies could enter, three towering warriors planted at the river's edge, cloaked in dark woven robes that hung to their ankles. Each held a long staff carved with ancient markings. Their faces were hidden behind wooden masks, stern and expressionless, and their bodies never bent, never trembled, never turned. Children were warned not to play too close to them. Travelers crossed themselves when they passed. Even hunters, men who feared almost nothing, lowered their eyes. Because everyone knew the same thing. The guardians never slept. They never ate. They never spoke. And because they stood there, no enemy had dared attack the village for 100 years. Kolu had grown up on those stories. At 15, he was old enough to carry water, cut reeds, and follow men into the forest traps, but in his heart he wanted only one thing: to become like them. His father had been a soldier before he died, broad-shouldered, disciplined, never wasteful with words. The elders said he had been brave. The boys said he had been feared. Kolu held on to that word more than any other. Feared. He thought that was what strength looked like. Not kindness. Not laughter. Not softness. Strength was cold. Strength was silent. Strength stood alone. So while other boys wrestled in the dust or chased fish along the shallows, Kolu would slip away to the riverbank and stare at the guardians. Sometimes for hours. He studied the way they faced forward no matter the rain. The way the wind tugged at their robes, but never moved them. The way even birds refused to land on their shoulders. He imagined there were men inside them, men greater than ordinary men. Men who had given up hunger, comfort, and speech to become something larger than human. He wanted that. He wanted to stop feeling afraid. Because the truth was, Kolu was afraid of many things. He was afraid of being called weak. Afraid of crying the way he had cried when his father died. Afraid that when danger came, he would run. So he built a hard face for the world and said little, hoping silence would make him seem strong. But old Nolia, the flower keeper, watched him one evening while she laid baskets of blossoms near the river. "Your face is too young for that much stone," she told him. Kolu frowned. "I'm learning." "Learning what?" "To be strong." Nolia glanced at the guardians. "Oh. You mean to be empty?" Kolu stiffened. "They are not empty." The old woman only smiled, as if she knew something he didn't, and scattered yellow river flowers at the base of the tallest guardian. Kolu never forgot that. And he never understood it. Until the night the bandits came. It began with dogs barking before sunset. Then drums from the watch hill. Then firelight moving in the trees beyond the river. Men grabbed spears. Mothers pulled children indoors. The elders shouted orders across the square. Kolu's chest pounded, not with fear, but with excitement so sharp it almost felt holy. This was it. The moment he had imagined all his life. The bandits would charge the crossing, and the silent guardians would come alive. They would step down into the water like gods of war. Their staffs would crush bone. Their masks would glow in lightning. Kolu would finally see what true power looked like. Before anyone could stop him, he ran. Past the cooking fires. Past the screaming goats. Past the last hut where the path dipped toward the river. He crouched behind a thicket of reeds and looked out. On the opposite bank, shadows moved between the trees, at least 20 men, some carrying machetes, others torches, others bows. Their leader wore a strip of red cloth around his arm and laughed as he pointed toward the village. The three guardians stood exactly as they always had. Still. Immense. Silent. The bandits hesitated when they saw them. Even from where Kolu hid, he could feel it, that old fear that had protected the village for generations. The men muttered among themselves. Two took a step back. Then their leader spat into the river. "They are only stories," he shouted. He picked up a stone and hurled it. It struck the chest of the nearest guardian with a hollow sound. A strange sound. Not the dense thud of flesh. Not the knock of shield or armor. Hollow. Kolu's heartbeat stumbled. The bandits heard it too. Their leader grinned. He waded into the river first, water slapping around his knees. The others followed, shouting now, emboldened by the sound. Kolu waited for the guardian to move. For one hand to lift. For one foot to step. For one of the masks to turn. Nothing. A gust of river wind came rushing through the crossing. The robe of the nearest guardian billowed open. And Kolu saw the truth. Nobody. No soldier. No giant warrior holding the line. Only a tall wooden frame bound together with old cane and rope, weighted with stones at the base. A shell. A shape. A lie. Kolu felt as if the river had opened beneath him. His mouth went dry. His ears rang. All those years of staring. All those stories. All that fear and worship and longing. For nothing. The men protecting the village were dead. Had perhaps always been dead. The guardians were scarecrows in royal robes. His father's silence. His own obsession. Everything he thought strength meant, suddenly it all seemed foolish. The bandits began to laugh. One splashed forward and struck a guardian's leg with a club. Another yanked at the robe. The huge figure creaked but did not fall. Kolu turned to run. He had to warn the village. He had to scream that the crossing was open. But then he heard it. A low, vibrating hum. Soft at first. So soft he thought it was only fear trapped in his skull. Then louder. Deeper. Alive. He looked back. The torn robe of the first guardian fluttered again, and from the hollow chest came a shimmer of movement in the darkness. Then another. Then thousands. The second guardian began to hum too. Then the third. The sound rose until the air itself seemed to tremble. The laughing bandits stopped. One man backed away, staring up at the open chest of the nearest figure. Another slapped at his neck. Another dropped his torch into the river. From inside the wooden frame poured a black gold cloud. Bees. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Millions. They streamed from the chest, the arms, the mouths of the carved masks, from hidden openings beneath the woven robes. The other two guardians burst open with the same living storm, and suddenly the river crossing was no longer guarded by statues. It was guarded by a kingdom. The swarm struck the bandits like smoke with teeth. Men screamed and splashed and stumbled over one another in the water. Torches hissed out. Bows were thrown away. One bandit fell face first into the shallows. Another ran blindly into the reeds. Their leader, who had laughed first, slapped desperately at his face and vanished into the dark with the others. The river became chaos. Then, as quickly as it had exploded, the swarm gathered again. Not wild. Not mindless. Spiraling. Breathing. Returning to the three tall bodies at the crossing until the humming settled back into a steady pulse, like a hidden heart. The guardians stood silent once more. But now Kolu understood. They had never been empty. He sank to his knees in the mud, trembling. Behind him, feet approached along the river path. Villagers emerged carrying lanterns, but none of them looked surprised. They stopped a careful distance away, calm as moonlight. Old Nolia stepped beside him with another basket of flowers in her arms. Kolu stared up at her. You knew? She nodded. Everyone knew. The village knew, she said. The river knew. The flowers knew. She walked to the first guardian and gently laid blossoms at its feet. Kolu looked from her to the towering figures. But they are not warriors. Nolia smiled. No. They are something better. Others came forward now, women with flowers, children with clay bowls of water, old men carrying bundles of herbs. They placed offerings at the base of the three guardians with the care one gives to living elders. Kolu watched the bees drift lazily around the blossoms, peaceful again. They never sting us, he whispered. Because we have fed them for generations, Nolia said. We plant what they need. We protect the riverbanks where their flowers grow. We leave them space. And when danger comes, she looked toward the dark forest where the bandits had fled. They remember who belongs. Kolu swallowed hard. All his life he had dreamed of a single mighty protector, one powerful man standing above everyone else, winning fear with silence. But that was never the truth. The truth was smaller than that. And greater. No one warrior had guarded the village. No lone strong man had saved them. It had been the women planting flowers. The children carrying water in dry months. The elders teaching which reeds not to cut. The quiet rituals. The patience of generations. Thousands of tiny lives held together by care. The guardians were not men. They were a promise. A living one. For the first time since his father died, Kolu remembered something he had almost buried, not his father holding a spear, but his father kneeling in the dirt beside the river, helping him press seeds into the ground. At the crossing, Kolu had asked him then. His father had smiled. Yes. Protection begins there. Kolu had been too young to understand. Now tears burned his eyes. His father had never been teaching him to become cold. He had been teaching him to belong. To tend. To join. To protect by helping others protect. Kolu wiped his face before anyone could see, but old Nolia saw anyway. Do you still want to be like them? She asked softly. Kolu looked at the three silent guardians, at their motionless robes, their carved masks, their hidden music. And this time, when he answered, his voice was different. Yes, he said. But now he meant. Not feared. Not alone. Not hollow. He meant steady. He meant useful. He meant part of something larger than himself. The next morning, when the mist lifted off the river, Kolu was the first one there. Not with a spear. With seeds.